My parents forced me into a fake relationship for social media fame. My parents sold my life for a viral video, and I didn't find out until millions of people were watching. My name is Chloe, and I'm 18 years old. For the last year, my life has been a whirlwind of perfect dates, stunning photos, and brand deals that most people my age could only dream of. All of it centered around my relationship with Liam, one of the biggest TikTok stars on the planet. Our love story was the stuff of digital legend. We met, so the story went, when I was just a regular girl working at a coffee shop. He came in, our eyes met over a latte, and the rest was history. Our first video together, a clumsy but cute couples challenge, went viral overnight. From that moment on, we were Chime, the internet's favorite couple. Every post was a masterpiece of curated perfection. A sunset selfie in Malibu, a candid laugh captured mid-bite at a trendy new restaurant, a tender moment where he'd brush a stray hair from my face. Each one was meticulously planned, shot, and posted by my parents. At first, I thought it was just them being supportive, maybe a little overbearing. They had always been ambitious for me, pushing me into acting classes and pageants when I was younger. This, I told myself, was just their way of living vicariously through my success. They managed my schedule, negotiated with brands, and even directed our photo shoots, telling me to tilt my head just so or laugh a little more genuinely. Liam was always charming, always on. He'd hold my hand, whisper sweet nothings that I now realize were just lines for an upcoming video, and kiss me with a passion that looked incredible on camera but felt hollow when the phones were down. I was living in a gilded cage, a beautiful, shimmering prison built from likes and shares. A nagging feeling of unease had begun to settle in my stomach, a cold weight that grew heavier with each staged smile. The love felt like a performance, and I was the lead actress who hadn't been given the full script. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just a prop in my own life, a pretty face for a brand deal. The final crack in the facade appeared on a Tuesday afternoon. I was looking for my mom's iPad to watch a movie in my room. I found it in the home office, left open on the desk. A document was displayed, a formal-looking agreement. My heart started to pound. It was a contract between my parents and Liam's management team. It detailed everything: post schedules, brand integration quotas, even clauses about displays of affection for public consumption. At the bottom, next to my mother's signature, was a line that read, "Talent representation for Chloe Martinez." My name was on a contract I had never seen, selling a relationship I thought was real. The world tilted on its axis. The coffee shop story, the viral video, the perfect dates, it was all there, outlined in black and white as a marketing strategy. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the pages, my dream life dissolving into a nightmare of corporate jargon and dollar signs. I wasn't a girlfriend. I was a product, and my own parents were my managers. The screen of the iPad felt like it was burning into my eyes, the stark black text of the contract searing itself into my memory. I stumbled back from the desk, my breath catching in my throat. The home office, usually a place of calm and organization, now felt like the scene of a crime. Every framed photo on the wall, Liam and I at the Coachella Music Festival, Liam and I ice skating at Rockefeller Center, Liam and I winning Couple of the Year at a flashy influencer gala, was a lie. A beautiful, expertly crafted, but utterly hollow lie. My mind raced, replaying every moment over the past year. The way my mother would suggest what outfit I should wear for a date with Liam, the way my father would review our candid videos, deleting the ones where my smile didn't reach my eyes. I had mistaken their micromanagement for parental concern. It was, in fact, creative direction. The next few days were a blur of quiet dread. I moved through my life like a ghost, smiling for the camera, holding Liam's hand, all while a storm of betrayal raged inside me. I watched him differently now. I saw the way he'd glance at his manager off camera before kissing me. I noticed the subtle prompts my dad would give him from behind the tripod. Liam wasn't just a willing participant, he was a professional actor, and I was his naive co-star. The worst part was the performance of intimacy. The contract had specified a minimum of 3 publicly verifiable romantic gestures per week. A bouquet of flowers delivered to my door, posted with a brand tag. A surprise picnic in the park, complete with a cooler from a sponsoring beverage company. Each gesture, once a thrill, now felt like a transaction, a checkbox on a form. I started to feel a strange sense of detachment, as if I were watching a movie about my own life. I was Chloe, the girl who had it all. But the real Chloe, the girl who loved rainy days and old books and dreamed of studying art history, was buried somewhere under layers of foundation and false eyelashes. I knew I couldn't confront my parents. Not yet. They would spin it, twist it, tell me they did it for my future, for our family. I needed proof, something undeniable. I needed to catch them in the act, to expose the entire charade, not just to myself, but to the world. An idea began to form, dangerous and terrifying, but also exhilarating. Liam and I had a live stream scheduled for Friday night. We were promoting a new brand of headphones. It was expected to pull in millions of viewers. It was the perfect stage. I wouldn't confront my parents. I wouldn't have a private conversation with Liam. I would do it live, in front of everyone. I would deviate from the script. I would ask him a question he couldn't answer, a question that wasn't on the teleprompter my dad would be holding just out of frame. I would watch the perfect facade crumble in real time, and I would finally see the truth for myself. The hours leading up to the live stream felt like the longest of my life. The air in our house was thick with a nervous energy I now recognized as professional anxiety, not parental concern. My mother fussed over my hair, while my dad ran through the talking points for the headphones one last time. Liam arrived with his manager, a sharp-suited man named Marcus, who shook my father's hand with the familiarity of a business partner. They all huddled in the living room, which had been transformed into a professional studio with ring lights and multiple cameras. I was an afterthought, a prop to be positioned. I sat on the plush white sofa, the headphones resting around my neck, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. Liam sat down next to me, his smile perfectly practiced. He smelled of expensive cologne, a scent I once found intoxicating, but now smelled like a chemical facade. The countdown began in my father's headset. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A red light blinked on the main camera, and we were live. The comments began to scroll instantly, a waterfall of hearts and fire emojis. Liam launched into his intro, his voice smooth and confident. He talked about the headphones, their crisp sound, their sleek design. He hit every mark my father had given him. I played my part, nodding, laughing at his scripted jokes, my face a mask of adoration. But inside, I was steeling myself. My palms were sweaty, and I could feel a tremor in my hands. I waited for my cue, the moment where we were supposed to do a couples challenge with the headphones, a silly game where we had to guess a song the other was listening to. As Liam reached for his phone to pull up the first track, I took my chance. I leaned into my microphone, my voice shaking slightly. I didn't talk about the headphones. I didn't talk about the challenge. I looked directly into the camera, my eyes pleading, and I asked Liam to tell me about his dog. A simple, innocent question. But I knew from the contract I'd memorized that Liam was allergic to dogs. He didn't have one. The smile on Liam's face froze. His eyes darted off camera, a frantic search for Marcus, for my dad. The comments on the live stream, once a uniform flow of positivity, began to change. Wait, what? Liam looks lost. Did I miss something? Liam stammered, trying to recover, talking about a friend's dog he once knew. It was a pathetic, transparent lie. The cracks were showing. I pushed further, my voice gaining strength. I asked him about the scar on his left hand, how he really got it. The script said it was from a skateboarding accident, but I knew from a late-night Google session that he'd gotten it from a fall during a school play when he was 10. He stared at me, his charming facade completely shattered, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated panic. He was exposed, and I was just getting started. The silence that followed my question about the scar was deafening, a void that swallowed the cheerful music we were supposed to be listening to. Liam's face, usually so expressive and animated, was a blank canvas of horror. The live stream, which had been a well-oiled machine, was now a train wreck in slow motion. The comments section exploded. It was no longer a stream of hearts. It was a chaotic mix of confusion, accusation, and morbid curiosity. OMG, what is happening? Is this a prank? Liam is literally sweating. Chloe, spill the tea. My father was frantically waving his hands off camera, his face a shade of crimson I'd never seen before. He was mouthing words at me, desperate commands to get back on script. But I was done taking cues. I looked past Liam, past the ring lights, and directly into the lens of the camera. I felt a surge of power, a terrifying and exhilarating sense of control. For the first time in a year, I was speaking my own lines. I told the millions of people watching that our relationship was a lie. I didn't shout, I didn't cry. I just stated it as a fact, as calmly as if I were reading the weather. The words hung in the air, tangible and heavy. The live stream chat went into a complete frenzy. The view count, already in the millions, started to climb at an astronomical rate. People were sharing the link, tagging their friends, tuning in to witness the digital car crash. Liam's manager, Marcus, suddenly lunged forward and the screen went black. The connection was cut, but it was too late. The damage was done. The silence of the dark screen was broken by the sound of my father's rage. He was yelling, his voice echoing through the house. My mother was crying, but they weren't tears of sorrow for me. They were tears of panic for their investment. Liam and his manager gathered their things in a flurry and left without a word, leaving me in the wreckage. My phone, which I had ignored during the stream, began to buzz uncontrollably. It was blowing up with notifications. Twitter was on fire. Clips of the stream were already circulating, set to dramatic music. Hashtags like Chaim Exposed and Fake Influencer Love were trending worldwide. I was no longer just Chloe, the girl in the perfect relationship. I was Chloe, the girl who blew it all up on a Friday night. I had pulled on a single thread, and the entire tapestry of my life had unraveled, live for the world to see. I sat there on the white sofa, the branded headphones still around my neck, and watched my world burn down in a digital inferno of my own making. The fallout was immediate and absolute. Our home, once a bustling hub of content creation, became a fortress under siege. My parents, in a desperate attempt at damage control, confiscated my phone and laptop, but it was like trying to bail out the ocean with a teacup. The story was everywhere. News outlets, gossip blogs, and 1,000 other influencers were dissecting every second of the live stream. My former fans were divided. Some called me a hero for exposing the truth, while others vilified me for ruining Liam's career and deceiving them. I was a monster and a martyr all at once. 2 days after the stream, when the initial media frenzy had died down to a constant simmering roar, my parents finally sat me down. Their tone was no longer angry. It was conciliatory, almost pleading. They admitted it. They laid out their reasoning with the same methodical precision they'd used to plan my fake dates. They told me about their financial struggles, the mounting debts, the fear of losing our home. They saw Liam's manager at a networking event, and an idea was born. They presented it as a business decision, a strategic move to secure our family's future. They argued that I had enjoyed the benefits, the clothes, the travel, the fame. They couldn't understand why I was so upset. It was a contract, a job. I was just being emotional. Listening to them, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. They didn't see me as their daughter. They saw me as an asset, a commodity they had leveraged. The betrayal was absolute, a clean cut that severed the last ties of familial trust. I retreated into myself, a silent prisoner in my own room. I was cut off from the world, left alone with my thoughts and the muffled sounds of my parents' frantic phone calls. One night, as I stared at the ceiling, my old non-smart tablet, which I used for reading, buzzed. It was an email notification from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was simple: "I know what you're going through." My heart hammered against my ribs. I opened the email. It was short: What happened to you is not an isolated incident. It's an industry. A whole network of influencers, managers, and even parents are doing the same thing. They call it relationship monetization. They're not just selling a product, they're selling a fantasy. And you were just one of many products. Be careful who you trust. The email was signed simply, "A friend." The implications were staggering. My personal hell was just one small part of a much larger, more sinister machine. My parents weren't just ambitious, they were part of a system. And I had a feeling that a friend was about to show me just how deep the rabbit hole went. The anonymous email was a spark in the darkness. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of something other than despair. It was curiosity, a burning need to understand the full scope of the deception. My parents had relaxed their guard, assuming I was broken and compliant. They left their laptops unattended, their faces etched with the weary stress of people trying to put out a 5-alarm fire with a garden hose. It was my chance. I waited until they were asleep, the house silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I crept into the home office, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. My father's laptop was on the desk, left open. My hands trembled as I moved the mouse, waking the screen. I didn't know his password, but I didn't need it. I went to his email and typed the name of the agency mentioned in the contract I'd seen, Synergy Social Partners. The search results were a goldmine. There were dozens of threads between my father and a woman named Evelyn Reed. She was the architect, the mastermind behind the relationship monetization scheme. Her emails were cold, calculating, and utterly devoid of empathy. She talked about talent pairing, brand synergy, and narrative arcs as if she were discussing stocks on the market. I found a folder labeled Project Chimera. Inside were files not just on me and Liam, but on at least a dozen other couples. There were headshots, social media analytics, and, most chillingly, contracts identical to mine. I saw the faces of influencers I had admired, people whose seemingly perfect relationships I had followed enviously. It was all fake, a carefully constructed web of lies designed to sell everything from diet tea to vacation packages. I copied everything I could onto a flash drive I found in a drawer, my hands shaking so badly I could barely type. I was just about to shut down the computer when a new email from Evelyn popped up. The subject line was, "Chloe Martinez, Containment Protocol." The email was a response to my father's panicked messages after the live stream. Evelyn wasn't worried about the moral implications, she was worried about the exposure. She wrote about deplatforming me, about launching a smear campaign to paint me as an unstable, attention-seeking liar. She was planning to destroy my reputation to save her own. As I read her cold, calculated words, a new email notification appeared on the screen. It was from a friend. This time, there was no message, just a single link. It was to a secure, encrypted cloud server. I hesitated for only a second before clicking on it. It asked for a password. I tried the name of the agency, Synergy. It worked. The server opened up and my breath caught in my throat. It was a treasure trove of evidence, internal memos, financial records detailing the massive profits from these fake relationships, and even video footage of meetings where they discussed how to manipulate their audience's emotions. It was the entire operation, laid bare. But as I went to download the files, the screen went blue. A message appeared, "Remote access detected, system lockdown." I had been caught. The blue screen of the laptop seemed to mock me, a digital tombstone for my brief moment of rebellion. My heart sank. They knew. Evelyn, Synergy Social, they had locked me out. I yanked the flash drive from the port, clutching it in my hand like a talisman. It was something, but it wasn't enough. It was just my story, my contract. The server held the key to exposing the entire network, and it was gone. I slipped back into my room, my mind racing. I was trapped. My parents were pawns, but Evelyn was the queen, and she had already made her move. The smear campaign would start soon. I would be discredited, my truth buried under an avalanche of lies. I had to fight back, but I didn't know how. I was an 18-year-old girl against a powerful, shadowy organization. The next morning, the atmosphere in the house was thick with unspoken tension. My parents barely looked at me. They were on their phones constantly, their faces grim. I knew they were talking to Evelyn, taking their orders. I was a problem to be managed. I had to get out. I packed a small bag with a few essentials, my mind working furiously. I couldn't go to the police. Who would believe me? I had no proof from the server. I needed an ally. I remembered a friend. I had to find a way to contact them. I thought back to the first email. It had been sent to an old, forgotten email address I used for art class registrations. I had to assume they had found me through my social media, through the digital footprint I had left behind. I had to find a way to leave a message, a sign that I needed help. An idea formed, a desperate long shot. I grabbed my sketchbook and a pencil. I started to draw, not a landscape or a portrait, but a diagram, a flowchart of the conspiracy, starting with Evelyn Reed and Synergy Social, branching out to the other couples, the brands, the managers. I drew it all from memory, from the files I had seen. At the bottom of the page, I wrote a simple message: "They locked me out. I need help." I took a picture of the drawing with my old tablet, the one my parents had forgotten about. I created a new anonymous social media account. I didn't have any followers, but I knew how the algorithm worked. I tagged a few of the smaller, independent news outlets that had covered my story, and I used the hashtags that were still trending from the live stream. Then I posted the image. I didn't know if anyone would see it. It was a message in a bottle, thrown into a digital ocean, but it was the only move I had left. I slipped out of the house while my parents were distracted, leaving the tablet behind. I walked to the nearest bus stop, my small bag slung over my shoulder, and got on the first bus that came. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. I was a fugitive in my own life, running from a lie that had become my reality. As the bus pulled away from the curb, I looked back at my house, the gilded cage I had just escaped. I was free, but I was also alone. And somewhere out there, a powerful enemy was hunting me. The city bus became my moving sanctuary, a rumbling, anonymous vessel carrying me away from the wreckage of my past. I didn't have a destination, only a need for distance. For hours, I just watched the world go by, the faces of strangers a comforting blur. I was no longer Chloe the influencer, or Chloe the liar, or Chloe the victim. I was just a girl on a bus, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. I used the last of my cash to buy a cheap prepaid phone. My first act was to check the anonymous account I had created. My post had gotten a few hundred likes and a handful of comments, most of them calling it a fake. But one comment stood out. It was from a user with a generic name and no profile picture. It said simply, "Check your old art school email. I sent you a safe number." My breath caught in my throat. It was her, my friend. I found a public library and logged into the old email account. There it was, a new message with just a phone number. I typed it into my new phone, my fingers trembling. I sent a text. "It's Chloe." The reply came almost instantly. "I know. I'm glad you're safe. My name is Maya. I was part of the network too. I got out." Over the next few hours, Maya and I texted back and forth. She told me her story, which was a mirror image of mine. She had been paired with a YouTuber, her relationship managed by Synergy Social. She had found out the truth and had managed to get out before she was in too deep, but she had been watching them ever since, gathering evidence.
Waiting for the right moment to strike. My live stream, she said, was that moment. She had been the one to give me the server link. She told me that Evelyn was a ruthless operator and that my parents were in way over their heads. She also told me that my post, the one with the drawing, had been seen by the right people. A journalist from a major online publication, one known for investigative reporting, had reached out to her. They were interested in the story, the real story, not just about a fake relationship, but about the corrupt industry behind it. Maya and I agreed to meet. She lived in a city a few hours away. She told me to come to her, that she would keep me safe. With the little money I had left, I bought a bus ticket. As I waited for the bus, I thought about my parents. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt a profound sense of sadness for them, for the choices they had made. They had sold their daughter for a taste of the good life, and in the end, it had cost them everything. The bus ride to Maya City was a journey into a new future. I didn't know what was coming, but for the first time, I felt like I was the one driving. When I arrived, Maya was waiting for me at the station. She was just a regular person, kind and warm, with a look of understanding in her eyes that made me want to cry. She took me to her small apartment, and we talked for hours, planning our next move. We had the flash drive, and we had Maya's knowledge. Together, we had a case. The journalist was coming the next day to interview us. We were going to expose Synergy Social, not with a live stream tantrum, but with cold, hard facts. That night, I sat on Maya's balcony, looking out at the city lights. I was Chloe, 18 years old. I had no followers, no brand deals, no fake boyfriend. I had lost my family, my home, and the only life I had ever known. But I had something else. I had the truth. And I had a friend. And for the first time in a very long time, that was more than enough. It was everything.